Hola amigos und willkommen na mój kanał. Bienvenue and welcome. So yeah, I can speak several languages. You might know that I speak Russian, English, German, Spanish, and I recently started to learn French. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey. How did I get my hands to all these languages? Well, first of all, I'm Russian. I was born in Russia, so I obviously know Russian. Secondly, starting from school, I have been learning English all the way through school, through the university, and now I'm reading in English and talking to my husband sometimes in English, and I'm talking to my child in English. So yeah, English is a really big part of my life, and now I have a channel in English. Then German, I started to learn German at the university. I'm a linguist, and I have been learning German in the university for 4 years. I have been studying in Germany also for half a year, so yeah, I can speak German. And then Spanish, when I met my husband. He's Chilean. He did not speak English that well as he does right now, so I had to learn Spanish, and now we speak at home Spanish mostly. And well, obviously I live in Chile, so I have to know Spanish. And French, I recently started learning it just because I love it, and I have been dreaming about speaking French my whole life, so I started to learn French. So that's my brief journey, how I went into the languages. So let me tell you a little bit what I understood while learning the languages for so many years. First of all, what I understood, what stopped me from learning the languages at the first place, was the boring grammar. Grammar is not boring per se, but the way the teachers give you grammar is so boring that it gives you absolutely no will to learn the language anymore. So what I understood, first, when you start in the new language, you have to realize why you're learning it. For example, I knew that Spanish I mostly need for talking. So I obviously need to read some books in Spanish. Now I have some books that I read in Spanish. I communicate via Marketplace or whatever. So I do need to write and read. But first task that I had was that I need to start speaking Spanish because I need to communicate with friends and family of my husband. And well, with my husband. And also going to the supermarkets, to the pharmacy, to all these things, I need to be able to speak. If you're learning some language for the job, obviously you need to know all the words in the field. You need to be able to communicate via email, So when you start learning languages, you have to realize what is your goal. With French, I definitely know that I just want to speak French. I want to understand French. And it's not really important for me if I write that correctly because it's not going to be a part of my job, at least for now. And if it's going to be done, I will go more into grammar and rules and everything. So I realized that the most important thing for me with the languages is to start talking. I bet you have met a lot of people in your life that were learning languages for years, but when you ask them to speak it, or you're oh, you speak this language, me too, and you start talking, they understand you, but they cannot say anything back. Well, at least in Russian system education, this is a very, very big gap that we have right now that has to be filled. We have a lot of people who can read and write English, but if you start speaking with them in English, they will not be able to answer because they have this huge barrier between knowing how to say things and actually saying them out loud. So as I said, for me, the most important thing is to start speaking language as fast as possible. That was also the reason why I took the semester in Germany, because I did it on my second year of university. You can imagine this is my second year learning the language, and it's learning the language at the university, so it's not just a language course or whatever. So why did I go in the beginning of my second year? Because I had to start talking, and being in Germany all by myself, having classes in German, I had no other choice than to speak German. And I do remember my first day when I was asking some lady on the street, how do I go to the train station? I was so nervous. I had to think before every single word, and I had like such a bad German, and I had a bad accent, and I was like, oh lady, I really need you to help me. Like I was thinking like, help me. I'm searching for the Bahnhof. That was all I could say, and like thank God she was very sweet and she helped me. But comparing the first day of me speaking German to the last day before I went back to Russia, it's like day and night. Because in my last day, I went to see some friends that were German, and we were sitting and we were talking German, and there were some new people around. So we were like talking, there were like some dancing and stuff. And then I had a conversation with a girl that I met for the first time there. And I'm talking to her in German, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going home tomorrow. And she's like, oh, are you from a different city? Like, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Russia, actually. And she's like, what? I thought you were German. Like, what? Wait a second. So yeah, speaking is very important. And if you notice, even the native speakers, they don't have perfect grammar, but they speak so freely and fluently. So that's the first thing you have to do when you start learning language. Of course, if you are not learning it just to read and write. So, how do I learn languages? First of all, I know like everybody knows, I guess, about this app, but it's like the best app ever, which is Duolingo. And it really takes you like 10-15 minutes a day to keep learning the language. And I just love it. Like I'm learning a lot of languages there, and I really love it. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's really fun. It's entertaining. It's completely free. Of course, you can pay for the plus version, but if you don't wanna, you don't have to. I did pay just because they are doing such an amazing job. I really felt guilty using the app for free. So yeah, Duolingo is like my number one suggestion. Then when you get a little bit the knowledge of the language, then I go to the books. Obviously, like you can find any book, any magazine about the topic that you like. Maybe even start with a book that you already know and read it in the language you're learning. Also, what I understood with the books, I was doing like a kind of big mistake at first, because I was trying to translate every single word. So it took me ages to read a book. And then like if I read it on my way or in the metro or somewhere, I didn't have time to like come back home and then like Google every single word and like what it means and then write it down somewhere and then learn it. This process didn't work for me at all. So what I tried to do, I obviously took first the simplest books or the books that I already know, and I started to read them without thinking that like, oh, I don't know this word, okay, I cannot read further. No, I just tried to understand the general idea. Then you can read it the second time and understand it deeper. The same works for me with the music and the movies. Like I have been listening to a lot of Spanish songs, like a lot of, and at first I understood some couple of words, then like a sentence, then another sentence. And after listening it to like many times and doing all the like Duolingo things and everything, at the end, I realized that now I understand the whole song and it's not an issue for me to translate it to any other language if I want to. But of course, the most valuable resource that you have while learning a new language is the native speaker. This is like the best case scenario if you can go to the country where they speak the language you're learning and just be there like for a couple of months. That's like the best you can do. If you cannot go to the country, then just like find some friends online. You know, thank God right now, like we have the internet, we have the connection everywhere to everything, so it's not hard to find a native speaker. Maybe you can even do this like tandem thing and exchange languages, like somebody's learning Russian, I'm learning English, so like I will speak to somebody who is a native in English and they want to learn Russian, you know? And like this, we're going to help each other. So yeah, if you can, definitely use the native speakers as much as possible, because this is like the best way ever to learn how to speak other languages. So lastly, the question that I want to raise is, why do you even want to learn foreign languages if almost everybody in the world speaks English? And I already can speak English, can understand it. So like, why bother? Well, first of all, I really love the process. I love the process of learning other people's language. Knowing other languages actually gives you a key to another culture, and just the realization of how deeper your world is becoming, or how wider your view to this world is now after you learn the language. It's just amazing. And like, learning a language opens you so many doors, like literally so many doors. Like in any profession, if you know languages, it's a huge plus. And also, I really love watching movies and reading books in the original. So if I want to enjoy a movie or a book, like, it doesn't matter how good the translation is, translation will never be as good as the original. That's just the fact. So like, reading Goethe in Russian or reading Goethe in German, it's so different. And for example, when I started reading Kafka in Russian, I was like, what? Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't like it, not the style, nothing. And then I was learning German, I was reading Kafka, and I was like, whoa, like, that is so good. And the same with movies, with music, with everything. Like, knowing a language really gives you like this key to the new culture, to the new way of seeing the world. It's mind-blowing, especially when you're learning the language and then you're like naming the same object, or there is like a new way to describe the feelings, or a new way to look at the weather or whatever. Like you really can understand how different the world is for everyone. And like, by learning the language, you can at least touch a little bit the understanding of the world, of different culture. So yeah, that's definitely a fascinating process. And that is like the reason why I will never stop learning languages. And it doesn't matter for me if the whole world is gonna speak English. Like, no, I will still be learning like French, Italian, Portuguese, or whatever. And yeah. And plus, sometimes, when you go to the little villages or the towns, not everybody is speaking English. So you might be pretty confused and lost. Or if you need the medical attention abroad, again, not everybody speaks English. Like here in Chile, it's pretty hard to find a doctor that speaks English. Or I definitely know if I will go outside and I will start asking for directions, there are gonna be like 95% of people who will never understand me if I'm speaking English. So yeah, like, surviving in Chile without knowing Spanish is almost impossible. And we are talking about Santiago, so imagine what's happening in the smaller cities. Nobody's gonna understand me if I will start speaking English. So yeah, that was like a little story about me learning languages. I hope you liked it, and if you have any more questions or comments, or maybe you have some tips about learning languages, definitely write me in the comments. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.